Hey everybody, welcome back to the Affirmation Addict podcast. This is your host, Payal Agarwal, and today I will be talking to you about what I learned from my India trip. I was there for about 3 weeks, so I wanted to talk to you guys about what I learned about the concept of duality. Hi everyone, my name is Payal Agarwal, and I want to welcome you to the Affirmation Addict podcast. Affirmations have changed my life, and now it is my mission to help you use them to change yours by using affirmations every day to manifest things your way. My goal is to make affirmations attainable and accessible to every single person, including you, because you have the ability to take control and create your reality. So come with me on my journey and let's see what we can manifest together. Hello, my beautiful souls. I'm so happy to be back. I'm back in Arizona. I'm back home, and I came back from my beautiful India trip. It was about a 3-week trip, and I documented a lot of it on my Instagram stories, and I was able to do a couple meetups, which was amazing. So to those people who I was able to meet or see or talk to in India, thank you for coming. It was so nice being able to connect with you all the way across the world. But I really learned a lot on this India trip. And I think because I was going with a completely different mindset, completely different understanding. And this time my mindset in India was actually to get a lot of work done. And I really had the excitement to show all of my beautiful friends on Instagram like what India is actually like and what it's like to be in India. And there's so much going on there, and I was so excited to showcase all of that. And I wanted to kind of dissect different parts of India because there's so much to go on. And frankly, I wasn't able to do any of that. Like, it just got so busy and chaotic, and it took me a little bit, but I was okay with it. And a big thing that kept coming up throughout my entire India trip was duality. And I think that roots from me being an Indian and an American. I think that's a very big duality that I live with. And I think also just India, Delhi, New Delhi is the capital of India. There is so much duality there that I noticed this time because there is so much noise, whether it's physical noise, whether it's figurative noise, because there's so many people there. There's always something going on. There's so much going on over there. But there's also a sense of calmness over there. So it's like there's calm in Delhi, but there's also chaos and noise. And it was just so interesting because there were so many scenarios that I noticed that there was a duality, and it really got me thinking. And I wanted to share what my thoughts are on duality and why I think it's so important to understand this concept and accept the concept of duality. And first, what I want to talk about is what even duality is. So duality to me, by my definition, is basically two extremes existing at the same time, existing in nature, existing in general. Because I think there's always a good and a bad, or a happy and a sad, or a strong and soft. There's always two sides of the spectrum, and I feel like on this journey, in this type of work and type of manifestation, law of attraction, we are always encouraged to only focus on that positive one, the really strong and the really happy and the really positive, but we're not really always encouraged to dissect and look into the negatives or the weaker sides of us or the softer sides of us. And what I thought was really interesting is, but how do you know what it's like to be super positive if you don't understand the negative? Or how do you know what it's like to be really strong if you don't know what it's like to be soft? And I thought it was so interesting because duality is a natural existence, but we are often taught to suppress that duality and only focus on that really high vibe, positive, and really good side. But what I really learned on this trip is it's important to acknowledge and empower and really set into both of them because both have their benefits and both are natural. You can't avoid being sad. You can't avoid being negative sometimes or being surrounded by it. Even if you're not there, if you're not feeling those emotions, somebody else might be and you're going to be surrounded by it. You can't avoid technically you can, but you can't really avoid in your day-to-day life the dualities that exist because there's always going to be two types of people. There's always going to be salt and pepper. There's always going to be like fire and ice. That is duality. Duality is the polarity that naturally exists. Even in nature, there's rain and there's sun, So I think acknowledging the fact that duality is a natural existence. Duality is not humanly created. Duality exists in nature by law. There's actually a thing called the law of polarity. And basically what that says is there's a good and there's a bad, and there's two sides to every story. There's two extremes, and there's two ways to look at things. So the first thing I invite you to do is start to acknowledge and play around with the idea of duality, because a big thing that I noticed is sometimes I always feel the need to be only positive, or I feel the need to only be strong and to only be self-confident. But that's so unnatural, and it's good to always try and be those things, but sometimes it's okay to feel a little self-doubt. It's okay to be growing while feeling self-confident. It's okay to feel a little unhappy while you're still feeling really happy. Like, those things can happen at the same time. By moments, not exactly in the same moment, but both of those things can exist in nature. They can exist in you. Like, you don't only have to be a really, really happy and a really, really strong person. There's so much that you can do. And another thing with duality is you want to say that I'm strong, but you can also have a really soft heart. And if you really want to be independent, you can still desire love from other people. Just because you are one side of the spectrum doesn't mean that the other side of the spectrum is completely gone. That's the thing that I think duality really makes you understand, is how to balance both of those emotions and both of those feelings. Because instead of focusing on one thing, I invite you to focus on both and acknowledge both. And how do you harmonize the two? And that's what I really learned in India, was harmonizing that feeling, for example, that I want to enjoy my time in India and experience India, but also work. And I love working. Like, this is truly, truly my passion. But how do I balance both of those? And it took me a little while to understand and figure that out. But the thing is I acknowledged that I was experiencing that polarity, because I think what we do is we confuse this polarity that is naturally occurring with actually confusion, and we mistake it for something that we're doing wrong, but we're not doing anything wrong. Duality is just something that occurs in our day-to-day life, but it's really what you decide to do with it. So if you're experiencing something negative, you could choose to sit with it, or you could choose to say, okay, I'm experiencing something negative, but how do I learn from this? And how do I grow from this? And that's where duality really comes into something actionable in your life. And something that we don't often think about is nature, like rain and sun. That's such a naturally occurring duality, and they both have their beauty, and they both are beautiful. Sunshine is warm and loving and cozy, and rain is also cozy, but it's colder and it's a little wet. And there's so many things that you can think about that have a naturally occurring duality, but instead of avoiding that duality, tap into it and have fun with it and play around with it. The biggest thing I enjoyed playing around with in India was finding the calm in all of the chaos. Like, I sent some video recordings on my story, like just showing how noisy and how loud and how fast paced it is to live in a city like Delhi, because there's so many people. It was festival season when I was there, which was so fun to see. I don't think I've seen festival season in India since I was a really little girl. So it was just really fun to be in all of that chaos and the hustle and the bustle, but also finding my own calm. Like, how did I take a step back and take a couple deep breaths? And literally sometimes what I would have to do would be in the middle of the market, and I would just go on the side and drink my water super slowly and just take a couple deep breaths. And that was how I found my calm in the chaos. It's just such a beautiful thing when you can acknowledge that two sides exist, and how do you leverage that to make it work for you? Because instead of being nervous, for example, I could have just been freaking out that there's so much chaos here, I'm never going to be able to find a calm. Or I could have said, there's so much chaos here, I need to go somewhere else to experience that calm. But the true mastery is finding the calm in that chaos, in the midst of all of it. So when you're experiencing a negativity and you're experiencing something negative, whether it's a breakup or whether you don't like your job, when you're experiencing something that's not making you feel good, but how do you switch that? How do you find the other side of it? Because in every single scenario, in every single situation, there's two ends of the spectrum. There is always duality. So it's your choice and it's kind of your journey to understand, okay, I could say this breakup was horrible, or I could also think about the fact that this breakup was a beautiful lesson for me to learn, and there's somebody better out there for me. Some people call this an optimist or a positive mindset, but other people also call it, how do you find the other side of the story and how do you do it within? Because sometimes it's only one extreme or the other, and that's never going to get you anywhere. When you can harmonize that duality and when you can find the balance in an extremely duality centered situation, that is like the key. That's when you master it. So to me, it was almost like a fun game. Like we would have a really, really busy day and we would have a back and forth day. And the thing I would ask myself is, okay, how do I find the calm in today? And I'm not going to change my schedule. I'm not going to cancel my plans, but how do I find that calm throughout my day? And that to me was such a rewarding experience because it was a little bit frustrating sometimes. And it was a little kind of overwhelming to find the calm and quiet my mind down. But when you can really sit with the duality and accept it rather than push it away and suppress it, I think you're really able to unleash like a more powerful version of yourself. So take a more day-to-day situation like the breakup I talked about. That could be a really, really negative situation or it could be a really, really positive situation. It's really our choice to find the harmony in it. Yes, it's okay to hurt throughout that breakup and you're not going to just feel magically good after it, but also throughout your healing process, where's the growth? Where can you learn from? What can you learn from in this process? Or what can you look forward to after you heal from it? Because you don't always have to have a beautiful relationship. Sometimes we go through breakups so we can learn something. Sometimes we lose that job or we quit that job so we can learn something. So finding that there's two sides of the spectrum at all times and really playing with it and understanding how your emotions deal with that duality and allow yourself to be two things. Allow yourself to be really, really independent, but also want the support of the people you love. Allow yourself to be really, really, really happy and excited and confident, but also still grow and have things that you want to learn and have different things that you need to heal from. So give yourself that time and give yourself that credit. It's about being gentle with yourself and really understanding that duality is natural. You can't avoid it. You can't escape it. It's always going to be there. But the beautiful thing is that when you understand the law of polarity, which basically says there's always going to be a good and a bad, you realize that if you're experiencing a bad, you also have the exact same potential to experience the complete opposite. So that is the type of hope that I really want you to kind of take your different experiences with and the different things that you go through with. For example, when I'm in India, I can experience the frustration of not finding that peace and not finding that calm, or I can switch that, go to the polar opposite end, and experience that same peace and desire I'm looking for while in that chaos. It really, really comes down to the way I choose to think about it. And I'm not saying that you're never going to have a bad day or you're never going to have a good day. It's really about harmonizing that and understanding that it's your choice on how you look at it. If you can experience something really, really, really bad, you have the same amount of possibility, you have the same amount of likeliness, you have the same everything to experience the complete polar opposite. So, by law of attraction, if you're focusing on that negative, you're going to get more negative. But if you deal with that negative and you experience that negative, but with a positive mindset, you're going to be able to switch over to the other side. So what sometimes we forget to understand is Everything is in our control, even the good and the bad. And when you are able to find that harmony and when you're able to kind of bring the good and the bad together, that's when you've truly conquered and you can get over any hump or any milestone. Well, not milestone, any difficulty that you're dealing with, because you've learned how to, you acknowledge and you accept that it's not the best experience, but you also know how to move past it with your mindset. And that's why it's so powerful when you understand the law of polarity. Like, you should never feel the why is this happening to me, or why me, or only me. The law of polarity and duality, that is by law. Like, you can never escape that. Similar to law of attraction, there's about 7 or 8 other universal laws, and that law of polarity is one of them. It's not going to ever go away. So instead of avoiding it and running away from it, you harmonize with it and you get in touch with it. And I think it's so powerful because this entire India trip, I noticed so many little dualities and polarities. For example, I noticed a lot even in like the clothes I was wearing. Some days I would really, really want to dress up and wear like my pretty Indian clothes, and other days I would just want to wear like a baggy t-shirt. And that's okay. It's harmonizing and experiencing both of them for what they are. You can experience a good thing and a bad thing, but still be positive throughout the whole thing, but still have a good mindset. Just because you're experiencing two different things doesn't mean you're on the wrong side of the spectrum. You can be in the middle of the spectrum throughout all of it. It's just your mindset. It's just if you allow your mind to go in one direction or to go in the other. And if you're able to stay in that middle, in that harmonized state, then you're able to conquer honestly anything that comes your way. So, for example, say you have an exam coming up. It's a really hard exam. You can't escape that. So you have two choices. Your choice is to study your butt off, be really, really stressed out about that exam, worry about it, have bad dreams about it, have nightmares about it. You're still going to take that hard exam. Or you have that hard exam and you still study, but you study with a hopeful mindset that, you know what, I'm doing the best I can, I'm studying, it's difficult, and I'm going to try and absorb, but I accept this process. I accept the difficulty because I'm learning how to study better and I'm learning this information. And you go and take that exam. Which one do you think you're actually going to do better in? To me, I know I will definitely do better in the exam if I have a more positive, more inspired, more hopeful mindset rather than wasting all my energy worrying and being anxious and everything. It's not that the exam was easy. It's the mindset that you go in with the exam, and how do you bring harmony? How do you bring balance into a difficult situation? That to me is what I learned in duality and what I learned in India, that it was difficult for me not to be able to work and not to be able to create the way I wanted to. But I found my calm. I found that balance where, you know what, I took notes and I wrote down different points that I wanted to tell you guys and share with you guys. And even if I couldn't go live over there, I can go live here. It's one of those things that understanding that if you choose to kind of wallow and really focus on the negatives and the hardships, that's what you're going to get more of. But if you experience those hardships with a mindset of, this will pass, but I'm also learning and I'm finding a way to enjoy and finding a way to balance even in this negative, then those positive experiences are only going to be 10 times better. And I think a lot of the times our society and our generation, even in general, we have a tendency to over exaggerate and over dramatize everything that we're experiencing. And instead of over dramatizing, what we really could be doing is sitting with the experiences that we're going through and sitting with and understanding and self-reflecting what we're actually going through. And some of my favorite ways to actually understand this duality and really take control of the duality and find harmony, because I want to tell you some actionable ways that you can do it. And my favorite way to do it is writing it down. So I make like a little T chart in my journal. Literally just make a giant T, and on one side I write I am, and on the other side I write but also or and still. Something that's really saying that you can have this, but you can also be doing the other thing. So some things that are on my list is I'm whole, but I'm still learning about myself. And if you think about it, that is so kind of contradicting. Like I'm whole, but I'm learning about myself. But that's the beauty of duality. You can be both sides of the spectrum. You don't have to be one extreme or the other. The other one is I'm healing, but I also need support from my loved ones. I'm strong, but I'm also having a really, really soft heart. I'm growing, but I'm also walking through the different pains that I've experienced. So it's something I think that's a really, really effective exercise to sit with the different things that you're going through and growing through. Because sometimes we think that if we're only positive, everything will be good. But when you avoid the other emotions you're feeling, you're not really growing. So this exercise, I think, really helps you acknowledge all the really beautiful, all the positive, all the strong things that you're doing. But at the same time, there's still other things that you're working on. And so it's not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to feel lesser than for. Duality is natural, and you will always be experiencing duality. But instead of running away from it, suppressing it, or not talking about it, sit with the duality, understand it, and experience it, because I think it's such a beautiful thing to experience. Like I keep going back to this example, but when I was in India and it was pure noise and I was able to find a little bit of calm, it just felt like such an accomplishment, because it feels like you're able to overcome the biggest hurdles, because sometimes it's really hard to find the positive in a negative situation. But that to me is what truly the point of duality is how do you find that balance? And so whatever duality you're going through, experience it. Whatever negativity or whatever positivity you're going through, fully experiencing it. Don't push away the other side of it. You can feel two sides of the spectrum. You can be aware of both sides of the spectrum. And so I truly, truly invite you to make that little T chart. On one hand, write I am, and on the other hand, write but also, or and still, whatever resonates with you. So I already read you my list, but you can say things like, I am healing, but I'm also complete. And that's two opposite things, two very contradicting things, but they're natural and they're true. Because some days I wake up feeling so fierce and powerful and ready to take on the day. And other days, or even that same day, I have these waves of self-doubt and contradicting thoughts where I'm like, am I even doing the right thing? And instead of running away from the negative or the more kind of depressing thoughts, you sit with it and you're like, you know what? How do I find the confidence when I'm feeling unconfident? And that's what duality to me is really here to teach us. Duality is here to teach us how to find the balance, how to find the harmony, and how to really bring everything we know into real life and into the hardest parts, because duality isn't something that's very easy. It's hard to sit with, it's hard to acknowledge, and it's hard to work through. But that's the whole point of it. I think it's like the true natural test of life, the yin and the yang, like where do you find that balance in everything you're going through? Because in order for good to exist, there needs to be some bad, so you have something to compare it to. And your bad, yes, there's bad energy, but it's your choice if you want to focus on the bad energy. That's where your true tests of balance, harmony, and duality come in. And so this is truly what I was working on for the past 3 weeks. And I thought it was so much fun just playing that game with myself in so many different situations, whether it was hanging out with my family or working or just sitting in traffic. I was like, I'm just sitting here and I can't do anything. But I was like, you know what? That's my gift. I'm sitting here and I'm just being with myself. So it's just all about perspective. Duality is finding the perspective that you want to focus on, no matter what you're going through. And if you do experience anything that's kind of contradicting, or you have different contradicting thoughts, don't be thinking that you're all alone. This is literally by law and by nature. And so I'm so happy I was able to kind of hop on and connect with you guys. And I really, really hope you enjoyed this episode, because this was something that I really, really took away from my India trip was duality is nature, literally sunshine and rain. If you're ever doubting your emotions, think about there is sun, but there's also rain. And it's just kind of a really comforting feeling, because sometimes we're so pressured to only think positive and to only experience positive things. And we think that if we're experiencing negative things, it's our fault. But It's not. The negative things are here to teach you a lesson. And the negative things are here because you need sometimes negative experiences to learn and appreciate more about the positive ones. So don't be too hard on yourself. Enjoy this process. Enjoy your day. And if you did enjoy this episode, I would love if you could send me a screenshot with your favorite takeaways and what you learned or what dualities you experienced. Send me your duality list. Anything, I would really, really love to see what you guys took away from this episode. Other than that, I just wanted to say thank you so, so much for tuning in. And I'm just so happy to be back on my grind, back in my groove. I'll be posting more podcast episodes very, very soon. And so I will talk to you the next time you tune in. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Mwah! Bye. That's all I have for you guys, and I just want to say thank you again for spending some time with me. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, head over to my social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or go to my website if you want to subscribe to my email list, which is affirmation-addict.com. I cannot wait to hear from you guys, and I will talk to you guys super soon. Have a good one, you guys. Bye!